the program is now sponsored by you, the viewers, and I think that we must congratulate ourselves for having taken what I think is a revolutionary step. We have shown that we can indeed stand up and be counted, get up, stand up for our rights. And so we are here this evening, and we will be looking at another assault on the African population in Guyana. As most of you must know by now, last Friday, a truck drove through Buxton, and the end result of it was 1 dead, 4 injured. 3 were hospitalized. I went this afternoon to the hospital before I came here to have an update on the condition of those men, and I will deal with that later. Okay, but before we go into begin to rock and roll in our program, we'll take a short break and let's look at this video. Ready? So, and we need, this is the, okay, we don't have the video. All right, we need the first, number one, the first frame up would be with the police, a statement by the Commissioner of Police. I think we have the order wrong. I'm going to show you some things so that you can get a better understanding of what went on in Buxton last Friday night. Just bear with us a little while until our technical people get themselves prepared. In the meantime, okay, good. What you're seeing here, could we have the copies of those papers? Okay, what we're seeing here is the headline from the Starbuck News on Tuesday, August the 23rd. And what you can see clearly, Green declares war on criminals, notes some bandits in the force. These things are very important. This is August the 23rd. All right? So you observe what Mr. Green was saying there. What he said was that there were some 80 police officers now before the force, and he also promised that he would be going after bandits, both the big ones and the little ones. And that was a very significant statement coming from the police. That they were two very significant statements. One, that there were bandits in the police force, and secondly, that the force was preparing to go after the bandits, both big and small. Right? He has it here. I'll read it for you. Among us are some bandits. Okay, you can take it off. Take off the thing from the screen. Okay, among us are some bandits, and we recognize that we have to put them where they belong, Green said. He mentioned that some 80 policemen are currently before the courts for corrupt practices. Now, this is remarkable. 80 policemen before the courts at one time. They probably didn't have 80 policemen before the courts for the past 20 years. Anyway, he also said the police will not back down. We have survived for 165 years, and no small time or big time criminal will put us down, he declared to an applauding audience of police officers. You know why this is significant? Okay, no, let me read another part of it. He also said this. On the issue of bringing back the controversial Black Clothes Squad, Green said some persons have been calling for such a unit. He said the force has well-trained and well-educated people who are doing the job. He admitted that the former unit, that was the Black Clothes Squad, was not able to do the job and it brought a lot of shame on the force. Good. Now these things are this statement here, what Mr. Green said, he is the crime chief, acting commissioner of police. I understand the commissioners out of the country. A lot of people were angry and dismayed, I should say, because if you remember, this Kaicho News had begun to carry a campaign against the top administration of the police force, against the new Home Affairs Minister, Ms. Gail Teixeira, and against the top echelon of the police force. They had written letters, there were articles by this peeping Tom guy, by this madman Freddie Kissoon, and they were saying that the top echelon of the force, the top line, were discriminating against. And here the people they had called, one Mr. Mirai, who was before the courts, I think, on 2 charges of one for killing some men. Well, 2 for killing. He had Shaka Blair in Buxton, plus 3 men on Mandela Avenue. I know he was also with the squad that killed this guy, Little Mate, in Princess Street. I don't know what's happened. A matter of fact, what's been going on in our country. Police have been running around the place shooting and killing people, and they have not been inquests held, which, a matter of fact, inquests are demanded by law. Whenever police shoot anybody, whether it was justified or not, there must be an inquest to know whether it was justified. And this, the authorities have been very lax in ensuring that inquests are held in these kind of matters. All right? Let me say this. When you see me here, when I appear on television, everything that I say is recorded by the Ethnic Relations Commission. This guy with the chairman name is Edge Hill, one Edge Hill, who calls himself a bishop. He has a guy there, sitting there, monitoring and recording everything I say. How I know this? I will tell you. I may have to tell you, but for now, just let it pass. But I know this is for sure. And then they send a copy of it to the office of the president. Okay? I also know this. But I am confident because I speak the truth. So I'm not worried by who record. The police also monitor what I say here. And if I say anything that they know is not true, I welcome them to come out and say that what I've been saying is not true. Okay. May the words of our mouths and meditations of our hearts be acceptable in the sight of the Almighty Creator. All right. So people have been very upset by what the commissioner said here, because the so-called phantom have discovered now that the police have begun to stop their vehicles, even going to some of their homes and search and seizing some of their weapons, because they felt that at one time they were untouchables under Mr. Gadraj. Police couldn't touch them. They're still pretty untouchable, some of them, but things are changing under the new commissioner and Mr. Green. I'm not holding carrying any, saying that these people are perfect, but there has been some change. This is a fact. And some of these phantom people have been arrested and placed before the courts. They're very upset because they could be moving around with their guns and the police could come and hold them. There have been a lot of crime in Georgetown. Now, it is the view of persons in the police force have told me, as well as political leaders, that it is in their opinion, what is happening is that these so-called phantom enforcers, young men who were given guns, given license in many instances to carry weapons, to protect businessmen during the 2002, 2003, after the jailbreak. And the men had decided that they were going to go after the policemen because the policemen were shooting down black youths in the street with impunity. That they were going after the policemen, and they were also going after to acquire funds to fund their resistance. So many of these young men were given guns, and they were later cut off. They used to be paid weekly by senior people, business people, some of whose names I have, and others in the some other drug lords used to pay these guys and gave them guns. But they stopped paying them because they felt, well, now, you know, things have changed, and they more or less, they feel that they don't need to. The resistance now is not committing crimes, because no one, it is obvious that Buxton is probably one of the most crime-free villages. Buxton is probably one of the most crime-free villages right now. Okay? Now, they're very upset that the police are not going into Buxton and shooting up people in there as they used to under the former Home Affairs Minister. And as a result of that, these persons I spoke to, knowledgeable persons, feel that this attack that you're seeing now on the screen, gunmen in 4x4, well, let me say first of all, I'm surprised that the Culture News says 4x4, because they claim to usually know what's happening in Buxton, because in fact it was a green truck, a green Bedford truck. So the gunmen in this green Bedford truck attacked Buxton residents. A teenager was killed, he was 16 years old, and 3 were wounded. All right, the matter of fact, I think it was 4 wounded, they have 3 there. 3 were hospitalized. Some strange things have been happening. Now, on the same day, the papers observed that the evening news vehicle was attacked in All Boys Town, and then Starbuck News was robbed. Now, these same men, many of them had this CG motorcycle. You know where they got these motorcycles from? They brought them from Brazil. They didn't register them. They just gave them out to these young men with their guns, and they used to ride around and you know, do whatever they were ordered. The police have begun to take away the CG motorcycles. So many of the cycles have been pulled off the road. Then the police have begun to go after these young men with the guns now and seizing the guns. I think you noticed the police said it seized like 80 guns already for this year. And then they have some of the bandit police that Mr. Green spoke of in courts, and they fired almost the entire Black Clothes Squad has been dismissed, including the one that they call Robocop. I understand he's back in the country. He's been thrown out to Canada, and he's now linked up to one of the big drug lords, this gangster, Ian Smith. Robocop is the one named Abraham. He was a sergeant. He's been thrown out the force, linked up to gangster. Ian Smith, he is now, he's been thrown out the force also. Robocop was a corporal, Ian Smith, I think, was a sergeant, yes. He's the one they call gangster. He's also linked up to this drug lord. Then you have Toots. He ran away. He's in England, I understand. Then Fraser was killed. And now you have one left, who was really the head of the gang that many people thought was Fraser was the head. This is Mirai. And he is at Ivleary in charge of some special operation. I don't know what he's doing there. But he was one of the men that the Culture News was pushing to that, saying that he's being sidelined and trying to criticize the top management of the force for this. And then another one named Balram Prasad, who was at one time charged under the Haidt regime, I think it was, for make sure this was the right one. Balram Prasad, he was charged for treason. I think it was Balram Prasad. And then they had another one.